So your ship finally came in, but you may not have a place to keep it. Of course, you could stuff it in a community hangar, but it may not be the place you want to hang out on a leisurely Sunday morning. And in some cases, you may not be able to get to the airplane exactly when you want to. Now, of course, you could buy a T-hangar. That's if you could find one at the airport where you want to keep the airplane. And the T-hangar may not be big enough to house the airplane, and it may not be big enough if you want to house the airplane there and also put together a kit project. And of course, with most T-hangars, you may not have the amenities that you and your guests are looking for. That includes a bathroom. Now, there's a company that's been making some noise in the industry. It's called High Flying Hangars, and they've got an interesting business model for building custom hangars at airports where it otherwise may be difficult. I recently sat down with Lisa DeFries at High Flying Hangars to learn more about what these folks are doing. And welcome to the Smart Aviator Podcast. This is episode number 2 with Lisa DeFries at High Flying Hangars. And Lisa, welcome to the show. I'm honored to have you as the second guest here on this podcast show. You know, when I think about hangars, the hangar experience is almost as, to some people, is almost as important as the airplane itself, right? Some people just like to go to the hangar, whether they fly the thing or not. They want to clean it, polish it, or entertain some friends or whatever. And from what I've seen over the years, sourcing a good hangar isn't always easy. So in comes High Flying Hangars. Take it from the top. What are you guys doing? Where did it come from? Where did the idea come from? And let's take it from the top.
Yeah, sounds great, Larry. Thank you first for having me on the podcast today. I'm really honored to participate in this. High Flying Hangars has been around for about 5 years. The idea for the company began when one of our founders, Kenny Hinkes, and his son, Jeff wanted to learn to fly. They bought an airplane. Kenny is 50 plus years a pilot and with a lot of experience in a CFI. So father, son, they buy an airplane, they bring it back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where they reside, and assumed they could just go get a hangar. And well, you know how that conversation goes, right? There weren't any. And there was a wait list, 7 years plus at all of their local airports. So with that challenge, Kenny, having spent the last 40 years of his life building as a commercial developer, with that challenge, they said, hey, we can build luxury houses, we build surgery centers, some of the most complex types of facilities. Let's build hangars. And so they began exploring that for their local airport, which is Double Eagle 2 in Albuquerque, where our first example of what we're capable of building exists. Phase 2 at Double Eagle is now under construction. We'll be delivering that in February of next year. So they decided to take a serious look at it. And then over the course of discussion, of course, you do your research, you find out there's a hangar shortage everywhere. So then the question was, if we can build in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where can't we build, right? So they started to look at taking the company nationally, because we all know there's a massive shortage for hangar space. The data varies state by state, but I'd say less than 20% of aircraft in the active fleet today have access to a hangar. In some cases, it may be 25%, but even so, the vast majority of people who own airplanes do not have a hangar for them. 230,000 aircraft, less than 25%. So, an airplane is a pretty important investment. I think anyone would agree. And there are all kinds of advantages to having an aircraft hangared, of course, especially if you live in the North Country, where I came from, where you reside, where snow and ice is a problem for a really big part of the year.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about construction of these hangars. These aren't, for the most part, not your typical cookie cutter T hangar, right? What kind of customization can you do from a structural standpoint? I said in the intro, I'm walking around my own T hangar, and this may not be big enough to house an airplane that maybe it's a big twin or maybe it's a couple of airplanes. What kind of options do you have for building these things? And what are they? Are they, how are they fabricated?
So we build, I say custom because it's on site. These aren't prefab hangars. And we build box hangars, more usable space, of course, in the interior of the hangar with a box versus a T. And so, we go back to, again, our founders, right? They're decades of experience in building luxury homes and high-end surgery centers. And so as an aviator today, if you could build it from scratch and have everything you want in it, what would it be, right? Water to wash the airplane, a drain, floor drain to allow the water to drain properly, your own bathroom, private bathroom, because a lot of airports where the hangars are located, you're not really close to facilities. So they went through this list of, if I built the best possible hangar for myself, what would it be? And then made the checklist of, these are the requirements we're going to put in a hangar. So the hangars are fully insulated and heated. They come with, majority of them come with private restrooms. So depending on the location, our 41.5 by 30 hangars, which is our smallest box hangar that can accommodate most small single engine aircraft, those are actually dry hangars. When we get into the 50 wide by 40 deep hangar, which is another one of our standard sizes at 2,000 square feet, that comes with a half bath. It comes with all of the other extras with insulation and heat and high-speed fans and bright lighting, and a densified and polished concrete floor, which is, I think, nicer than epoxy. It doesn't scuff or mark, and it makes it impermeable. So it's a really great finish. And then we go up to 60 by 60s. When we get into the larger units, we start getting into 3/4 bath sizes, so you have a shower as well. But each of the hangar units will come with a series of amenities that are above and beyond what most people are used to in the current hangar experience today.
How about hangar doors?
Yeah, so on the hangar door, we're using Diamond Doors bifold hangar doors. They're beautiful door. They operate very smoothly. Our owners at Albuquerque love them. We have decided for some of our hangar units. So on a 41.5 by 30 wide hangar, the standard is a 12-foot clear opening door. On a 50 by 40, it's 14 feet. And on the 60 by 60, which is a hangar size that can actually accommodate a much wider range of aircraft sizes, everything up to a light jet, even a Phenom 300, which is technically considered midsize. We have a lot of aircraft that can fit within a 60 wide hangar that have a much taller tail height, like the TBM, which is close to 14 feet. So a 14-foot or a 16-foot door didn't give owners enough wiggle room. So we recently decided that on all of our 60 by 60 units, when in our new developments like Denton Enterprise or Frederick Municipal in Maryland, we're going to make an 18-foot 6-inch door, which is 18 feet 6-inch clear opening door, our standard for that hangar size. We had so many requests from buyers to upgrade the height of the door for their unit. We didn't want to have a row of hangars with some doors taller than others, because you'd have people with a little bit of FOMO or envy, hangar door envy, if you will, because one hangar's door height is taller than the other. And you know how this is with airplanes, right? It's a trade-up market. So you get a lot of owners that have a single-engine airplane that are looking at a light jet or a turboprop of some sort. This gives owners of our hangars a lot more flexibility so that they don't have to find themselves trading out the hangar or selling the hangar if it doesn't meet their needs. This way they've got a lot more useful capability in the hangar because of the size of the door, the height of the door.
Sure. And you're building these things nationwide. It's not just out in the Albuquerque area, right? You're all around the country?
Yeah, that's correct. So, it goes like this. Hangars are needed everywhere. so,
Sure.
so we are, when we started this whole expanding, the plan for high-flying hangars, we looked at about 120 airports. So in our analysis, there's over 4,800 public use airports in the United States. So, we're just basically scratching the surface at 120 airports, which seems like a lot for most, but they're in markets where there's population density, pilot population density specifically, in states where there's a lot of registered aircraft in general aviation, and where the demand is incredibly high for hangar space. So we looked at 120 airports. Right now, currently on our website, you'll see there's 5 locations where we're actively taking reservations. Double Eagle Phase 2 is just about sold out. Denton Enterprise Airport in the Dallas metro area, Frederick Municipal Airport, and of course Frederick, Maryland. Boulder City, Nevada was just announced that we won an RFP on 40 acres of land at Boulder City Municipal Airport. It's a beautiful location. It's one of the last general aviation airports closest to Vegas with land. So we've got quite a substantial plan for Boulder City Municipal that we're really excited about. And we just announced North Texas Regional Airport, which is GYI. That's in the Sherman-Denison area north of Dallas. It's about 40 miles northeast of Dallas. It's a great location. There's a lot of aircraft owners there with no hangar space. So those are the first 5, but we've got discussions with well over 20 airports and more adding every single week. We have airports coming to us now that they're hearing about what we're doing. And we try to prioritize based on where the opportunity is greatest, but the opportunity is really great everywhere right now. So we will continue our work to develop our lease contracts with various airports throughout the United States. We're looking in all states, really. There's opportunities everywhere. But we are working real hard to get our plan established for, I would say, the first 15 airports.
Yeah, okay. Over the years, I've seen hangar projects sort of fail. They never really get launched, particularly at state airports where there's some laws in place that builders oftentimes don't know how to navigate. One of the things that high-flying hangars you sort of take pride in is your ability to sift through these regulations, right?
Yeah, so I would say that's probably one of the greatest attributes of our team is resilience and patience, in addition to a commitment to our mission for sure. But yeah, look, airports, I think that's one of the challenges that we probably come across occasionally. I talk to a lot of potential buyers every week, every day, is will it really happen, right? Because they have seen projects get announced and never materialize. Our team, again, did a lot of work in the beginning to develop a set of contracts with the airports, as well as our ground lease and our buyers' sublease agreements that are both FAA compliant. They make the city or the sponsor of the airport, it could be an authority, a city, a county, they make them happy. And it also enables us to provide for the buyer a title to the improvement. So there's that's part of the hard work that was done early on. It was 3 years really of meeting with different parties to develop a set of agreements that would hold and be strong and protect the interests both of the airport but also for the buyer themselves. One of which is the length of the lease, right? So to make a value proposition for the owner really truly valuable, we needed the longest lease possible. And we're not really interested at developing in an airport that won't give us a minimum of 40 years. The FAA maximum is 50, of course. And when we get 40, we always try to go for an extension. We were just granted our first extension on our first development at Albuquerque, W2. So now our buyers who are buying into phase 2 get that additional 10 years, as well as the original owners get that additional 10 years. So the lease is good for close to 48 years now for anyone buying it at that location. And we'll certainly do the same thing at all of our other locations.
How long does construction take in general? To take the smallest and the largest. What kind of time frame to break ground and move in?
Yeah, so every location's a little bit different depending on the elements that we find, whether it's in the soil or Mother Nature. But They can be built in about a 12-month period. We say 10 months is probably more reasonable, but hangars are not extremely complex once we get the process going. So it takes about 10 to 12 months. It can be shorter than that. It just depends on the location and what we have in the preparation for construction.
Yeah, and do you have your own contractors or do you sub it out depending on where you are region wise, or how's that work?
Yeah, so in each location, we have general contractors that we will work with. Franklin Construction is overseeing our Albuquerque project. They're a great team. We'd like to use them for future projects. On the East Coast, we've hired Warner Construction, which is a very reputable general contractor that has a lot of experience with large scale commercial projects. They're first class. And so we'll use them for as many projects as we can. So we like to hire local general contractors that know the area, that know the state, the city. They understand how to navigate in the permitting process, some really critical aspects of the permitting process. So it's very valuable to us to use them. They will work with subcontractors, of course, as they do best. But we do look to hire local general contractors that have experience in all the right areas, and we've been very fortunate to find some really high quality teams.
Yeah, and I won't pin you down, but if we talk about for somebody that doesn't know what a hangar costs,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a hangar that's big enough to house a Cirrus or a Bonanza or something. What's kind of the low end price wise? That's something that's got decent amenities. Maybe it's got a bathroom.
Yeah, so I will tell you the cost per square foot on construction has come up a little bit in recent years. Steel prices have come up pretty substantially over the last 3, 4, 5 years. So hangar construction today versus the cost of hangar construction 10 years ago is a completely different scenario. They're worlds apart.
Sure.
Try to keep as best we can our costs under $200 a square foot. In some cases, $170 a square foot, $175 a square foot. It just depends. And again, every location presents an entirely different set of circumstances that will either help us reduce the cost of construction or will increase the cost of construction. So a 41 and a half by 30 square foot hangar, for example, if we're able to keep it on the lower end of the cost of construction, will probably land somewhere between 260, 275, 280,000 all in. And it goes up from there. 60 by 60 hangar, which is actually our most popular size right now. We haven't, in terms of the total number of deposit holders, we haven't released firm pricing at any of our locations yet because it is a size we have not yet built at Double Eagle, but we will be at all of our future airports. That hangar, on the low end, again, we're looking at about 575,000. On the high end, in the 600s and up from there.
Yeah. You may have said it. I probably missed it, but heat and electric, those kinds of things.
Yeah, so that is in every hangar. To be clear, the cost of buying a hangar isn't just the purchase price. Hangars, again, these are we negotiate ground leases, and so every location has a ground lease. As we're the master leaseholder. So High Flying Hangars is the builder. Hangar Club, which is our management entity, is the holder of the master lease at each one of the locations. So there are additional utility costs when you buy a hangar. There's, buying the hangar is not just the cost of the acquisition. High Flying Hangars is the developer. Hangar Club is our management entity that will hold the lease for the location. So we hold the master lease. We also hold the insurance policy on the entire development for structural and liability. So there's pro rata share in those expenses. It's relatively nominal, all things considered. But in addition to pro rata share of the insurance and the ground lease, there is a utility. There's often water, sewer, common area maintenance, and a monthly management fee. But it's important to emphasize, we are not a management company, and that is not a profit center for us. We charge a very nominal fee simply to pay an accounting firm to manage the collection of the utilities and all prorated costs, so that it's done and we stay compliant to the terms of our lease. So it's not a you can use the term HOA, right? That's something people are familiar with and most people don't enjoy, including myself. But it's not a profit center. It's simply there to ensure that we maintain compliance with the terms of our lease contract. So our website, highflyinghangars.com, is pretty straightforward. We have all of our current locations there. We'll continue to post new locations as we open them up. We also have a newsletter. You can sign up for our newsletter that will keep you in the loop on all new locations and the progress through each one of our current locations. So that's our best way to keep everyone informed of what we're doing. Yeah.
Okay, and one thing we do on this podcast show is we always ask the guests what their favorite used airplane is. And you and I spoke off camera, and one of your favorites is the L-39 jet, but maybe something a little bit more within somebody's budget, something you definitely want to keep inside of a hangar. Among your favorite is the Piper J3 Cub. What do you like most about the Cub?
I think there's nothing more true to flying than flying in a Piper Cub. You can fold the windows down and just take a nice low and slow approach to seeing the land from above. I had a great experience with a good old friend of mine, Carl Miller, in Vero Beach, Florida, when I went down to flight safety to get my ground school out of the way. And he took me up off of his grass strip. He and his wife, Donna, live in a great little flying, I would call it a smaller community or an air park, in his J3. And we flew over the coastline in Florida. And man, there is nothing prettier than that on a sunny day.
My advice has always been to sort of buy the best Cub that you could possibly afford. These are old airplanes and they've been around for a long time. And, look closely at the engine, because while most engines, these Cubs may have an 1800 or so hour TBO, most of them never see those kinds of hours. So they're sitting around, and you want to be careful there. The other thing you want to look at is insurance. These are tail draggers. And as we know, the insurance market has not been too kind for folks transitioning to tail draggers, especially older pilots or pilots that don't have a lot of experience. So get an insurance quote first, and do a real good pre-buy inspection by somebody that knows the model well.
I was just going to say, it should be noted that most insurance companies will give you a discount on your insurance if you hangar your airplane. So shameless plug there, not so shameless plug there.
Well, I think it's a sin to keep a Cub outside, so you've
Yes, of course.
got to keep it inside. But thanks a lot for coming on the show here, Lisa DeFries at High Flying Hangars, and I'm Larry Anglisano. Thanks for watching.